Brian Stutland.
Brian Stutland. Brian Stutland. Brian Stutland.
Brian Stutland.
Brian Stutland.
Brian Stutland.
Let's get to our resident volatility expert, Brian Stutland, at the CBOE with the options action.
Hi there, I'm Brian Stutland. You've probably seen me on CNBC, where I've worked as a contributor to the shows like Options Action and Futures Now. Over the last 2 decades, I've also been a floor trader, a market maker, and a portfolio manager. My experience in the stock market has given me valuable insights that I'd like to share with you. Did you know that we are currently in the longest running bull market of all time? Take a look at this chart that shows all the major bull markets throughout history. Notice that the average bull market lifespan is about 5.1 years, and yet our current bull market is now over 9.5 years old. So I ask you this, when do you think the market will have a big correction? At the end of each of these bull market periods, the stock market declined at least 20% or more. Even more noteworthy, at the end of the previous longest bull market, you recall the internet boom, right? Between 90 and 2002, the stock market declined 48%. It lost nearly half its value. Given this information, how much do you think the stock market will actually decline when this bull market ends? If this tremendous run in wealth creation comes to a crashing end, how will you manage your risk when it happens? This gets to my favorite word, volatility. Most investors don't even know what volatility is, but I can tell you it's that little butterfly in your stomach when things don't start to get out of control. This word or feeling is why you need to attend my next webinar, where I will teach you some of the most important concepts to manage risk and volatility. Did you know when the stock market collapsed in 2008, one of the only asset classes that increased in value was volatility? Yes, you can actually trade and measure volatility, and it actually increased over 300% in value. What if you had known about volatility back then? Could have made an impact on your portfolio now. Attend my next webinar, and I'll show you some of the strategies I use to hedge risk in my portfolio. Don't be that person that ignores the warning signs before it's too late. Now is the time to take action and learn how to hedge your portfolio to potentially reduce losses. Just enter your name and email in the address below, and I'll register you right now. In fact, as a way to say thanks for attending my webinar, I'll also send you a copy of my new book, Trading with Edge. I normally charge $19.95 for this copy, but I'll give it to you for absolutely free just for attending my webinar. Don't miss this chance to get a free copy of my book and a seat at my next webinar. I want to be clear to help clear the way and make the right moves that can lead to more investment success. Just remember to register for my webinar by entering your name and email, and I'll send you all of this.
Thank you, everyone, for attending this informational session. And my name is Brian Stutland. Hopefully, over the next 20 or 30 minutes here of your time, I'll be able to share some of the insight that I've had in the markets and a little bit about what I present to the public these days. As you know, I'm a CNBC contributor and author to my newly written book and money manager under Equity Armor. Now, when I first got started in the market, I kind of use a saying that is sort of a way I hold myself out, and it's called the art of war, and it says the battle is won before the first shot is fired. And what that means, and what I will be teaching you about, not just in my book, but over the course of the next 20 minutes or so, is a little bit of information about how to prepare yourself when you do enter the market. It's just important to know exit and entry points and a theory behind your trading strategies before you even enter them. And that's the first sort of mindset that I have as a trader, to get myself off to the right foot, to do the research, to have a course and a plan of action before entering into trades already sets you off in the right frame of work and the right way to be successful. So to give you a little bit of a background about myself and the life journey that I've taken over the last, let's say, 20 years, I've continued to involve not only my trading strategies, but where I've traded and the type of person I've been. I graduated in 1997 with a degree in chemical engineering. A couple years later, I finished off my master's degree, of which I was taking classes towards that in biomedical engineering. But I transformed myself from an engineer, which had great problem-solving skills, to becoming a floor trader in 1999. And throughout the course of time, obviously the markets have evolved. We went from a full open outcry system in the markets through the whole internet bubble. And what came about from the internet rage was a more electronic world, both in the form of email to buying goods and services to doing business in the financial world. And in 2005, when I formed Stutland Equities LLC, it was a registered broker dealer on the floor of the Chicago Board of Options Exchange, which was exempt for becoming, for the purposes of being a market maker. And we started off doing remote market making, meaning as the world advanced from an open outcry trading system on the floor and the chaos that took place on the floor, the world became more electronically traded, and we were a market maker making markets electronically. Well, funny enough, as the world evolved, so did how I was trading. I went from trading options and stocks and jumping from pit to pit in situations, and you'll find out in my book all the different experiences I had on the trading floor and how I utilized that to further my career, further my ability to trade more successfully. And I try and tie that in and share that with you on different option strategies and how I look at the market in terms of trading options. But obviously, as we evolved, I started getting phone calls from a broker. I was sitting in a booth on the side of the floor. I was hearing the action in the market, albeit not as loud as it once was, because more and more things were being traded electronically. And I got phone calls from brokers on the floor with customer orders saying, "Hey, I got this order in the VIX option pit. Can you give me a market on this?" And it was at that moment that big institutional firms were wanting a product that could trade VIX directly. As you know, the VIX is just a calculation of volatility. It's most known as the fear index. And so I went into the VIX pit. It was me and let's say just about 5 people or so in there, and became a market maker in the VIX. And I traded the VIX under the broker dealer for all the way through 2014. And over that time, I was lucky enough to become a contributor to CNBC and a couple of the shows that they have there: Options Action, Futures Now, Fast Money. You can catch me on all those. But as time evolved, markets got tighter. Electronic world was picking up steam. And by 2009, we formed Equity Armor. And 2011, Equity Armor Investments, which is now the owner of Equity Armor Advisors. And by 2017, Equity Armor Advisors was in full effect, and we began using our volatility strategies to not just market make anymore. We changed over to be more market takers,